Welcome back. Before we begin tonight's story, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is in your part of the world. And if you enjoy dark horror stories, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe for more terrifying tales. Now, let's begin. I still check my rearview mirror whenever it rains. Not because I'm worried about another car following me. I'm looking for the yellow porch light. I saw it for the first time on a cold night in November, when I took a wrong turn on my way home from work. The rain had started just after midnight. It wasn't heavy. It was the kind of steady, gentle rain that makes the whole world sound far away. I had worked a late shift at a warehouse outside a small town in Ohio. My normal drive home took about 40 minutes. That night, it took much longer. A truck had overturned on the highway, so the police had closed the main road. My GPS sent me through a series of narrow country roads I had never seen before. At first, I didn't think much about it. Then my signal disappeared. The map froze. My phone screen showed one blue dot surrounded by nothing. No street names, no directions, just rain tapping against the windshield. I kept driving. 5 minutes passed, then 10. I didn't see another car. I didn't see a house, only dark fields and trees. Then my headlights caught something ahead. A mailbox. I slowed down. The number painted on it was 19. A few seconds later, I passed another mailbox. It also said 19. I looked in the rearview mirror. The first mailbox was gone. I told myself I had read it wrong. Rain can distort things. Headlights can make numbers look strange. So I kept going. Then I saw a third mailbox. 19. This time I stopped. My engine idled quietly. Rain slid down the glass. I stared at the mailbox for almost a minute. There was no house beside it. No driveway. Just a muddy path disappearing between the trees. I checked my phone again. Still no signal. That's when I noticed the light. Far down the path, deep in the woods, a yellow porch light was glowing. I had no idea why I decided to follow it. Maybe because I was tired. Maybe because I wanted directions. Or maybe because something about that light made me feel like I had been expected. I parked on the side of the road and walked into the trees. The rain soaked through my jacket almost immediately. The path was narrow but easy to follow. After a few minutes, I saw the house. It was old. 2 stories. White paint peeling from the wooden walls. Covered porch. And one yellow light hanging beside the front door. I knocked. Nothing happened. I knocked again. The door opened by itself. I should have left. Instead, I stepped inside. The house smelled damp and old. A clock was ticking somewhere in the darkness. "Hello," I called. No answer. Then I heard a woman's voice from upstairs. "You're late." I looked toward the staircase. "Sorry." The woman didn't answer. I waited. Then she spoke again. "You took the long way this time." My stomach tightened. I hadn't told anyone where I was going. "Who are you?" Slow footsteps began coming down the stairs. I couldn't see the person yet. The hallway light was too weak. Then the woman stopped halfway down. She was old, very old. She wore a long gray dress and held the railing with both hands. But she wasn't looking at me. She was looking behind me. Her face suddenly changed. "Did you bring him here?" I turned around. The front door was still open. Rain fell outside. The road was empty. There was no one there. I looked back at the woman. "What are you talking about?" She slowly pointed toward the darkness outside. Then she whispered, "The man standing behind your car." I ran to the window. My car was exactly where I had left it, and someone was standing beside it. A tall figure, completely still, facing the house. The rain was too heavy to see his face, but I knew one thing. He hadn't been there when I walked inside. And as I watched him through the window, he slowly raised one hand and knocked on the roof of my car 3 times. I stood frozen beside the window. The tall figure remained next to my car. Rain poured over his shoulders. I still couldn't see his face. Then he knocked on the roof again. 3 slow taps. The old woman grabbed my arm. Her fingers were colder than I expected. "Don't let him see you." Pulled away. "What is he?" She looked toward the window. You don't remember? The question made no sense. I've never been here before. The woman stared at me. For a moment, she looked almost sorry. That's what you always say. My heart began to pound. What do you mean, always? Before she could answer, the porch light went out. The entire room became dark. I heard something moving outside. Slow footsteps. Splash, splash, splash. Getting closer to the house. The old woman whispered, "Get away from the windows." I followed her into the hallway. The clock was still ticking, but now I noticed something strange. It was ticking backward. Tick, tick, tick. The hands moved from 12:04 to 12:03, then 12:02. What is this place? I asked. The woman ignored me. She opened a small door beneath the staircase. Inside, I stared at the darkness. No, she looked terrified. If he knocks on the door, don't answer. I suddenly remembered something. My car. My phone was inside it. My only way home was outside. I need to leave. The woman's expression changed. You can't. Why not? 3 knocks came from the front door. Tap, tap, tap. We both went silent. The clock stopped. For several seconds, there was no sound except the rain. Then a man's voice spoke from outside. Daniel. My blood went cold. I had never told the woman my name. The voice continued. I know you're in there. The old woman covered her mouth. I stepped closer to her. How does he know me? She whispered. Because he's been looking for you. The door handle slowly turned. I backed away. The front door was locked. I had watched the woman lock it. The handle stopped. Then the man laughed softly. It wasn't loud. That made it worse. You're making the same mistake again, Daniel. I stared at the old woman. What mistake? She looked at me, but before she could answer, a loud crash came from the back of the house. Glass shattered. The old woman screamed. Upstairs. We ran. I followed her up the narrow staircase 2 steps at a time. Behind us, I heard the front door slam open. The man was inside. We reached the 2nd floor. The old woman rushed into the 1st bedroom and locked the door. I followed. What's happening? She didn't answer. Instead, she moved a dresser in front of the door. Then she pointed toward the closet. Hide. I stared at her. No. Tell me what this is. Her eyes filled with tears. You came here years ago. I told you I've never... Yes, you did. The room became silent. Even the rain seemed quieter. The woman stepped closer. You were 16. You were with 2 friends. Your car broke down on this road. I shook my head. No. You came to this house looking for help. My mind raced. I had no memory of it. The woman pointed toward a framed photograph on the wall. 3 teenage boys stood in front of the same house. My stomach dropped. One of them was me. The photograph was old. I was wearing a black jacket I recognized. I had lost that jacket when I was 16. Beside me stood 2 boys, my best friends from high school. Both had died years ago, in a car accident. I stepped closer to the photograph. Written across the bottom was a date, November 14th, 2009. That was the night they died. The old woman began crying. Only you came back. A sound came from inside the closet. 3 slow knocks. Tap, tap, tap. I turned toward it. The old woman whispered, Daniel. The closet door slowly began to open, and from the darkness inside, a familiar voice said my name. Daniel. It was my friend Marcus, the friend who had been dead for 17 years. The memory in the walls I couldn't breathe. Marcus. The closet door opened another inch. The old woman grabbed my arm. Don't go near it. But the voice came again, closer this time. Daniel, help me. My knees felt weak. Marcus had been my best friend. I knew his voice. Even after 17 years, I knew it. The old woman pulled me toward the bedroom door. We have to go. I shook her off. He's dead. I know. Then how is he talking? She looked at me with tears in her eyes. Because this house remembers. 3 more knocks came from inside the closet. Tap, tap, tap. Then the bedroom lights flickered. For half a second, I saw the room differently. The wallpaper looked newer. The bed was gone. The photograph on the wall was gone. And 3 teenage boys were standing beside the window. Me, Marcus, and our other friend, Tyler. Then the lights flickered again. The room returned to normal. I stumbled backward. The old woman whispered, "You remember now, don't you?" No, but I did. Not everything, just pieces. A wet road. Marcus laughing in the passenger seat. Tyler driving. The headlights suddenly going out. Then the sound of the car hitting something. I pressed both hands against my head. The closet door flew open. There was nobody inside. Only an old jacket hanging from a hook. My jacket. The black one I had lost. I slowly reached for it. The moment my fingers touched the wet fabric, another memory came back. We had been walking through the woods. All 3 of us. It was raining. We were scared, but pretending not to be. Then we saw the yellow porch light. The old woman had been younger then. She opened the door and let us inside. I remembered asking to use the phone. Then I remembered hearing a knock. 3 times. Tap, tap, tap. The old woman had told us not to open the door. Marcus didn't listen. He said maybe it was someone who could help us. He walked to the door and opened it. Nothing was there, just rain. Marcus laughed. Then he turned around and said something I still remember. "Guys, where's Tyler?" My eyes opened. I was back in the bedroom. The old woman was staring at me. "Tyler disappeared first," she said. I backed away. "No." Then Marcus. I looked toward the closet. The black jacket slowly moved, as if someone inside it was breathing. "And you?" I asked. The old woman looked down. "You survived." A loud bang shook the bedroom door. The dresser moved across the floor. The man was outside. "Daniel!" he shouted. The old woman screamed, "Don't listen to him." But I was no longer sure who to trust. The man hit the door again. This time the wood cracked. "You never survived," he yelled. Everything went silent. I stared at the door. The old woman slowly shook her head. "He's lying." The man laughed. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "Ask her why she never leaves the house." I turned toward the woman. She stepped backward. I looked at the window. The rain was falling outside. The road, my car, everything was gone. There was nothing beyond the glass. Only darkness. "Where is my car?" I whispered. The woman didn't answer. I walked toward her. "Where is it?" She looked terrified. "Daniel, please. Where is my car?" She suddenly screamed. Not at me. At something behind me. I turned. The closet was open again. Marcus was standing inside. His clothes were soaking wet. His face was pale. But he looked exactly as he had when he was 16. "Don't believe her," he said. Couldn't move. Marcus slowly stepped out of the closet. Water dripped onto the floor. "She's the reason Tyler disappeared." The old woman shook her head. "No." Marcus looked at me. "You remember the basement, don't you?" My heart stopped. A new memory entered my mind. A locked door beneath the stairs. Tyler pounding from the other side, screaming my name. Then silence. I looked at the old woman. She began crying. "Daniel, you locked him in there." The bedroom door suddenly exploded inward. The tall man stood in the hallway. Rainwater dripped from his face. For the first time, I could see him clearly, and I recognized him. It was me, older, much older. He looked directly at me and whispered, "You finally came back for the truth." The basement door, I stared at the man in the doorway. He had my face. Not exactly the face I saw in the mirror every morning. His face was older, tired. His hair was gray at the temples. A long scar ran across his forehead. But his eyes were mine. I stepped backward. The old woman whispered, "Don't listen to him." The older version of me looked at her. "That's what you told him last time." My stomach tightened. Last time. He stepped into the room. Rainwater dripped from his clothes, but the hallway behind him was completely dry. "You've been here before, Daniel." Marcus moved closer to me. "Don't believe him." The older man laughed. Marcus, you've been dead for 17 years. Marcus's expression changed. For the first time, he looked afraid. Then the lights went out. A second later, the room was empty. Marcus was gone. The old woman was gone. Only the older man remained. I backed against the wall. Who are you? He looked at me for a long moment. Then he answered, I'm what happens when you leave this house. I wanted to laugh. Instead, I ran. I pushed past him and raced down the stairs. The old house seemed different now. Longer, darker. The hallway stretched farther than it should have. At the end of it was the small door beneath the staircase. The basement door. It was open. I stopped. Cold air rose from below. Somewhere in the darkness, someone was crying. A boy. Daniel. I closed my eyes. Tyler. Daniel, please let me out. I slowly walked down the stairs. Each step creaked beneath my weight. The rain sounded louder underground. That made no sense. Rain should have been above me, but it sounded like it was falling all around me. I reached the bottom. There was one light hanging from the ceiling. It swung gently. The basement was almost empty. Concrete walls, old pipes, a wooden chair, and on the far side of the room, a locked metal door. Someone knocked from the other side. 3 times. Tap, tap, tap. My hands began shaking. Tyler. The crying stopped. Then his voice answered. You left me here. I walked closer. I don't remember. You do. A memory hit me. Tyler screaming at us to wait. Marcus telling me to keep walking. Me finding the basement door. Me hearing something outside. A man. A stranger. Standing in the rain. I remembered Tyler running downstairs to hide. I remembered grabbing the door. I remembered hearing the lock click. I stepped back from the metal door. No. The older man was suddenly behind me. You locked it. I turned. He stood at the bottom of the stairs. You were scared. We all were. Then why didn't I come back? His eyes lowered. Because you died. The basement seemed to tilt. What? You never drove home that night. I shook my head. That's impossible. The older man pointed toward the metal door. Open it. I can't. Open it. The crying began again. I reached for the lock. It was old and rusted. My fingers closed around it. And suddenly I remembered the car accident. Not a memory from after we left the house. The beginning. The car had not hit a tree. Something had been standing in the road. Tall man. Tyler swerved. The car rolled. Marcus died first. Tyler was still alive. So was I. We crawled out into the rain. Then we saw the yellow light. The house. I dropped to my knees. The older man spoke quietly. You made it here alone. No. You were alone when you knocked. The basement door rattled violently. Daniel. Tyler screamed. You promised. The older man walked closer. Open it. I unlocked the door. Slowly, the metal door swung inward. There was no room behind it. Only darkness. Then headlights appeared. 2 bright circles. I heard tires sliding across wet pavement. I saw my younger self standing in the road. 16 years old. Bleeding. Terrified. The headlights grew brighter. I screamed and covered my face. Then everything disappeared. I was back in the basement. The old woman stood behind me. She looked younger now, the way she had looked in my memories. Her eyes were filled with tears. You were the only one who reached my house, she said. I turned toward her. Then why are they here? She looked toward the darkness beyond the open door. Because they followed you. The basement light suddenly went out. In the darkness, someone began walking toward me. Splash, splash, splash. The same sound I had heard outside my car. Then 3 knocks came from directly behind me. Tap, tap, tap. A voice whispered into my ear. You're not the only one who came back. The road that never ends. I spun around. There was no one behind me, only darkness. Then the basement light came back on. The old woman was gone. The older version of me was gone. And the metal door stood wide open. Beyond it, I could see the road. The same narrow country road where I had first seen the mailbox. Rain fell gently beneath the headlights of my car. I stepped closer. The basement disappeared behind me. Suddenly, I was standing outside. My car was parked exactly where I had left it. The engine was running. The driver's door was open. For a moment, I couldn't hear anything except the rain. Then I saw the mailbox. 19. My stomach tightened. I looked farther down the road. Another mailbox stood in the darkness. 19. I ran to my car. I got inside, locked the doors, and drove. I didn't look back. For several minutes, I stayed on the road, gripping the steering wheel so hard my hands hurt. Then I saw a road sign. Highway, 2 miles. I almost started crying. I had made it. I kept driving. 1 mile passed, then another. The rain began to slow, and finally I reached the highway. There were cars, streetlights, a gas station, normal life. I pulled into the station and parked beside the first pump. For several minutes, I just sat there. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I checked my phone. There was signal again. 6 missed calls, all from my sister. I called her immediately. She answered on the first ring. "Daniel." "Yeah." Her voice broke. "Oh my God. I'm okay." There was a long silence. Then she whispered, "Where have you been?" "I got lost." "Daniel, you've been missing for 2 days." I looked at the dashboard clock. 2:17 a.m. "No, you left work 2 nights ago. We called the police." I looked through the rain-covered windshield. 2 days. I remembered only a few hours. "Where's my car?" I asked. "What? My car? Did they find it?" She started crying. "Daniel, please don't do this." My heart began pounding. "What happened to my car?" The gas station lights flickered. My sister whispered, "They found it the morning after your accident. Couldn't breathe." "What accident?" "Daniel." I slowly looked into the rearview mirror. For 1 second, I saw the old house. Then it was gone. My sister continued. "They found the car in a ditch. Marcus and Tyler were dead." I closed my eyes. "I know. No, you don't understand." I opened them again. Outside the gas station window, 3 people were standing in the rain. Marcus, Tyler, and the tall man. "Daniel," my sister said. Her voice sounded far away now. "They found 3 bodies." The phone slipped from my hand. I stared at the people outside. Marcus slowly raised one hand. Tyler stood beside him. The tall man smiled, picked up the phone. "What do you mean 3 bodies?" My sister was sobbing. "They found you too." The gas station disappeared. The road disappeared. The rain became louder. I was back in the basement. The phone was gone. The car was gone. The old woman stood beside me. For the first time, I understood why she looked so sad. She had known me for 17 years. Not because I kept returning to her house, but because I had never really left. The older version of me stood near the stairs. I looked at him. "So you're not real?" He smiled sadly. "Neither are you." A sound came from behind the metal door. 3 knocks. Tap, tap, tap. Then the voices began. Marcus, Tyler, and another voice. A voice I didn't recognize. The old woman grabbed my hand. "We have to go." "Where?" She didn't answer. The older man looked toward the open door. "We've done this before." I turned toward him. "How many times?" He looked exhausted. "Enough to know it never ends." The room began shaking. Water poured from the ceiling. The basement filled with rain. I climbed the stairs behind the old woman. But when we reached the top, there was no hallway, only the road again. The same mailbox. 19. My car was waiting. The old woman let go of my hand. "Get in." I stared at her. "Will I remember?" She looked toward the woods. "No." "What about them?" She didn't have to ask who I meant. Her face became pale. "Don't let them in the car." I heard Marcus calling my name. Somewhere behind me, then Tyler. "Daniel." I ran to the car. I got inside and locked the doors. The engine started. I drove. I didn't stop. Not for the voices. Not for the yellow porch light. Not for the mailboxes. Eventually, the rain ended. Morning came. And somehow I was back on the highway. I drove straight home. For the next 17 years, I tried to forget. I moved to another state. I changed jobs. I avoided country roads. And whenever it rained, I stayed inside. Then, 3 nights ago, I woke up to a gentle tapping against my bedroom window. I knew that sound. 3 slow knocks. Tap, tap, tap. I didn't move. The rain fell softly outside. Then I heard Marcus whisper from the other side of the glass. "Daniel." I closed my eyes. A second voice joined him. "Tyler, you promised." Covered my ears. But the third voice came from inside my bedroom. Right behind me, the tall man whispered, "You're late. I haven't looked behind me since, because I know what I'll see. And I'm afraid that if I do, I'll find the yellow porch light glowing at the end of my hallway. And somewhere beyond it, a mailbox with the number 19, waiting for me to come home."